Here's the thing about this podcast. It's not
only
about how much scooters cost, weigh, top speed. You know, there are YouTube channels for that. There's not podcasts, because this is the only electric scooter podcast that I know of. There was one or two in the past that put out a couple episodes a year or a couple years ago or whatever. But this is electric scooter lifestyle. So when I first started the podcast, I realized that sticking to a script and keeping it 100% scooters, I was missing out on a lot, because sometimes I would ask a question and that would lead the interviewee down a little interesting rabbit hole. And I would listen to those first couple interviews I did, and I thought, why didn't I just pursue that? So this is my podcast. I don't work for a corporation. I don't have a team with me. My studio is here at the Scooter Dome in Las Vegas. I make the rules. Yeah, I make it a half-hour podcast, and I do it every single Wednesday, released at 8 o'clock in the morning. I try to follow a regimen and be predictable, because as a podcast listener, that's what I like. And the podcasts I listen to, I wait for them to come out, certain ones. And if it's Tuesday and it's not there, it doesn't ruin my day or anything, but it's just nice to have something that's reliable. But I don't have to stick to 100% scooters. You're scootering in Spain. Let's talk about Spain. Let's talk about what you ate. I interviewed Paul from the Electric Scooter Guide. He played saxophone in a Bay Area ska band called The Conspiracy. And, we talk about that. What's it got to do with scooters? Not much, except the guy I'm interviewing rides a scooter.
Welcome back, Scooterheads, to another episode of the Electric Scooter Podcast. I'm your host, Dagwood Streets. Why did I start with that intro? Well, I was talking to Cody, who you may remember from previous podcasts is a paramedic. And I went kind of off on that, I won't call it a rant, but maybe let's call it a spiel. And it's because partially I have a few episodes coming up that will involve what you could loosely call scooters. One of them is for disabled or handicapped, whatever the politically correct terminology is these days. I have an uncle who has one leg, but he likes to go outdoors and rock collecting and do things in the desert and that kind of thing. I'm sure he wouldn't be bothered by whatever term I used. But they have a scooter-like machine that is for people in wheelchairs that can do four-wheel drive off-road. So it's like a scooter, but it is not made only for handicapped or disabled folks. It's fun for anybody, and I'm going to do a review on that. I'm going to do another review on a big fat wheel scooter, and I'm also planning on presenting the audio from the Electric Scooter Guide, where they talk about the 10 best lightweight scooters, because I think it is fantastic information and presented well. And as always, I trust the Electric Scooter Guide and their views. And some of the scooters they're talking about I have ridden, and I pretty much do agree with them. Why listen to a podcast of a YouTube video? Well, I'm going to have some added value in there. You'll see. And sometimes you might not want to jump up and listen to something or watch something on your laptop or your television, but you might want to listen as you're scooting along or as your head is hitting the pillow and you go off into nighty-night time. I sometimes like to drift off listening to a podcast. So if any of those, or you're doing any kind of activities, jogging, whatever it is, and you want to hear about scooters, stay tuned. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up. I noticed a spike in the numbers interviewing Cody and talking about Spain and traveling, and that's another thing that kind of ties into my intro to this episode is scooter lifestyle. If you're traveling to different countries and scooting and have an experience, I want to hear from you. You can contact me anytime, dagwoodstreets@gmail.com, and we can talk either over the computer or, as you can tell in this interview, I manipulate the audio from phone calls, give it a little boost. I drop the bass a little bit, drop the treble a little bit on the areas that are outside of human hearing anyway, and mess with the mid-range to try and make telephone calls sound as good as possible. And for the first 75 episodes, I only did interviews over the computer so I could get the cleanest sound possible. But I have now determined that I think it's acceptable. I've listened to NPR and ABC News, CBS News, CNN, Fox, whoever. I've listened to some of their very professional podcasts when they do phone interviews, and they sound pretty terrible, so that kind of put me off. But after listening to the past couple episodes with Cody, I am satisfied. I think it sounds good. Additionally, I did want to mention that I do have a YouTube channel. I do scooter music that I make scooter videos for, and I sometimes, I did an unboxing once on the Zooter, XOOTR, which is a push scooter. I did a video on going up and down curbs on electric scooters versus push scooters, and I'm not Steven Spielberg. They're okay. The videos are decent. I'm trying to up my game, but just want to let you know that's an option. And sometimes people communicate with me on those YouTube videos. I also do some stuff on motorcycles. So there's 3 ways you can get in touch with me. The easiest is dagwoodstreets@gmail.com, or you can make a comment on one of my YouTube videos. And you may or may not know this, but this podcast automatically goes to YouTube as well. So you can make a comment on my YouTube podcast episode. I got to say, most people don't listen to podcasts on YouTube unless it's a visual kind of YouTube like Joe Rogan or so many other. They call it a podcast. I don't really think that is a podcast, because wasn't the original the pod from Apple, iPod? People listened to audio only on their iPods. So I think with Joe Rogan and those guys, my personal opinion is that's like a TV show or a program. But you can listen to them audio only, also on Spotify. And, of course, this podcast is available on Spotify and every other podcast platform you could possibly name except Pandora, because Pandora doesn't allow music, and I like to put music in my podcasts. All right, that's over 9 minutes just opening the show. Let's get back to our fascinating conversation with Cody, who recently went to Spain and rode some scooters, ate some food, met some friends. He was in Barcelona, Ibiza, and Madrid. I really enjoyed the last couple podcasts where he came on and talked to us, so I'm just going to keep it going. We start off with Cody talking about his favorite electric scooter podcast episode.
Yeah, actually, my favorite one was that Tim West, the guy from Canada. Who was the guy from Canada?
Yeah, Tim West is from Canada. Yeah, he's excellent.
Yeah, that was actually my favorite one because I liked hearing him talk about Canada, like where he lived in particular, and the scenery and all that stuff. So
I thought it was interesting. The one thing that he said, well, it was all interesting. He's an interesting guy, but he said people vacation there in Vancouver, British Columbia. People from England vacation in Vancouver, BC, because they want to see what the real England looks like.
yeah, I thought he said it was more English than England or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you watch his videos and you get that distinct impression. I mean, it's such a beautiful place. It literally is green lawns, white picket fences, and he's scooting on a sidewalk that runs along the ocean, and there are boats in the marina, and yeah, it just looks pretty amazing. And I'm going to make it there sometime. Have you ever been there?
No, I want to go really bad.
So you were with 3 other guys, is that right?
3 other guys, yeah.
And
Chris, Brandon, and Sime.
And had they ridden scooters before?
I don't think, if they had, it was probably Bird or Lime.
But they took to it fairly easily.
Oh yeah, no problem.
But
like I said, they were kind of going slow, but I think they just didn't want to live as dangerous as I did because I was going. I mean, I was like jumping up and down into the street and up on the curb, and I don't know what the laws were, but I didn't care. I was like, I'm just gonna ride crazy, and I was like crossing the streets. I was going through red lights because even the people there.
You're a maniac.
Well, the light's red. They look, no cars, then they go. And that's kind of what everybody was doing. So I was trying to follow everybody else's vibe,
Wow, that doesn't sound as bad the second time you said it.
I know. I was trying to make it sound cooler, but
but those 3 guys, they had ridden scooters, but you probably have more experience with scooters, so you had more confidence.
Yeah, none of them have rode a Wolf Warrior. I can guarantee that.
While you were in Spain, if I were to go to Spain, the first thing I would do, of course, would be to get a Bad Bunny tattoo.
Oh, did I tell you that my friend? Oh, yeah, you saw it, yeah.
Nothing says, hey, I've been to Spain. You see someone with a Bad Bunny tattoo. Oh, you've been to Spain, huh? Isn't that the first thing that pops into your mind?
The thing was that album came out, I think, May 9th or something. It came out a couple weeks ago. And so he had that playing the whole time at the hotel. I stayed in a separate hotel. We had, 4 people. So we had 2 people in each room. But every time we're getting ready to go to the club, he's playing Bad Bunny, and the album just came out. He speaks Spanish too. So he decided to get the album logo and then wrote Ibiza underneath it.
Okay, at least he had Ibiza.
And that was his first tattoo ever in his life. And all 4 of us are tattoo virgin. None of us had tattoos. So he gets his first tattoo in Ibiza. Kind of cool. Yeah.
Well, it's cool, the Ibiza part, but I don't have tattoos. But if I did, I would get them in foreign countries, and I would have something specific like Thailand, something about Muay Thai or Buddhism. A buddy of mine went through the rites of manhood initiation in a chain of islands called the Trobriands. You ever heard of the Trobriands? They're kind of
I haven't.
I think they're kind of north and east of Australia, and I don't know what they do. If they do leave you tied up overnight or something, let ants bite you. I don't know. They do some kind of weird. There's some canoeing involved. There's a bunch of stuff you got to do. And so he got leaping dolphins around the bottom of, between his ankle and knee. So his calves, they have a string of leaping dolphins. And anybody who sees that knows you've been through that manhood initiation. So it means something. So stuff like that. And in Thailand, I know some of the tattoos are connected with things that protect you or things you shouldn't do and things like that. It's kind of spiritual. So I don't think I'd like go to Cambodia and then get Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon tattooed on me and then write Siem Reap, or Batam Bang underneath it. But to each his own,
Yeah, it said Ibiza and then just the logo, you know what I mean, of the album. But I mean the album came out and then we were listening to it the whole time we were there. So, and at least it is, at least he's speaking Spanish. He's Puerto Rican, I think. So.
Yeah, and it does have a memory associated with it because you were listening to it and it was in Ibiza, but still, I don't know. Hey, it's his body. When he's 73 years old, he'll look down at it and he'll smile. He'll go, "Man, that was a fun scooter ride."
I even said to him, I was like, dude, that's gonna be your first tattoo, like, because none of us had. I was like, if he already had a bunch of tattoos or whatever, it's like, he's one of those guys that doesn't care. But he was a tattoo virgin, and I'm like, that's gonna be your first one, like a Bad Bunny album, whatever.
That's exactly.
I don't want to talk about him. I don't know that guy that well, so I was like, oh, that's okay, whatever.
That's exactly what I thought because you, I think you no, not FaceTime, but you WhatsApped me and video call, and he showed me the tattoo. I was kind of at a loss for words. I was like, bad. You went to Spain and got a Bad Bunny tattoo. Okay, and I'm not. Believe me, it sounds like I'm making fun of him because of the tone of my voice. But in all reality, I'm not laughing with him. I'm laughing at him. So if he listens to this podcast, then I hope he's not disappointed.
It's time to ask you some questions. Say what's on your mind. Now it's time to ask you some questions, but you won't have much time.
Answer me! Answer me now! Answer me! I've got questions! You give answers! So answer me now, right now!
Let's go into a couple questions about scooters in Spain. Did most of the people that you saw riding scooters wear helmets?
I believe so, yeah. That I could think of. I think most of the people were, because when they rented them, they give you a scooter. I mean, they give you a helmet. I think it comes with the scooter rental, and they even told them, "Hey, make sure you guys are wearing these because the cops will say something." It's kind of what they told me.
And were people riding in a devil may care type of fashion, or were they mainly following rules and being careful?
I think most people were kind of doing what I was doing being a little bit more unhinged than other people, but it seemed like people were kind of riding wherever. Because I don't know the rule, I don't know if it's like a bicycle where you're supposed to follow the rules of the cars, or if it's kind of follow the rules of the pedestrian. So I kind of just did whatever I felt like. I was on the sidewalk and then in the street and all over the place.
I ride motorcycles, and I'm starting these moto vlogs or moto vlogs, and I'm noticing that I'm not used to talking as I ride. That's what you do. You have your helmet on, you have your camera mounted on your helmet and a microphone inside your helmet, and you're talking as you're riding. And I'm starting to realize that if there are people who do not ride motorcycles, they only drive cars, and that's their experience. They see a big line of traffic, and then I'm not going to pretend I'm in a car. I have a big V-twin air-cooled engine. I can't sit still or I'm going to overheat. So I'm not going to pretend I'm a car. And I've seen people do this on motorcycles. And as a motorcyclist, I think, are you nuts? It's got to be somebody who's new to riding.
In Vegas, you're not allowed to split lanes, though, right? That's what I thought. I know California, you can.
You're not. But that's the point that I'm getting to. I'm not going to sit there and pretend like I'm a car. If there's a bicycle lane or there's just any room for me, I won't split. but I will go to the left or right, like off to the shoulder. I'll do that every single time. And let me tell you, listeners, that includes scooter heads, probably only scooter heads listening to this. If you're sitting in your car and you get angry because a guy on a motorcycle or a scooter passed you by, then you need to rethink your life, because
you need to rethink your mode of transportation is what I'm getting from that.
exactly, you should be happy that's one vehicle that's causing less traffic. He's out of the way of everybody and gone. Didn't slow you down. You're still sitting there. You're still in the same spot that you always would have been. But you need to rethink some things in your life. If somebody passing you by on a scooter or a motorcycle or a bicycle or anything makes you upset. But particularly motorcycles, scooters and skateboards and bicycles, you kind of expect them to go by. But people, for some reason, and it's probably only 1 in 100, but some people don't like it. When you get out of that queue, you get out of line, and boom, you go up straight through the traffic light. Some people don't like that.
Yeah, they're envious.
Yeah,
That's what I think. When I see that, I'm like, man, I should be on a motorcycle right now. I should be on a scooter.
but some people actually get angry that someone got ahead of them. That's it. It's okay to feel envious. Go, yeah, that dude's doing it right, man. That's what I need to do. I need a scooter. But there's 1 in 100 people or 1 in 50. I don't know what it is. It's probably different ratio in every large city that gets angry because you got ahead of them. So the people riding scooters in Barcelona, they seem to follow the rules, but you can't. That's why I told that whole side story, is you do what makes sense. There might be a rule that says you can't ride on the sidewalks. There's a lot of cities in America where they say you can't ride a scooter on the sidewalk. But if it's bustling traffic right next to a sidewalk that, as far as the eye can see, there's no human being and no buildings or anything but just a big, long sidewalk like that. I came across that situation a lot in Arizona. I'm getting on that sidewalk. I don't care. The likelihood of me seeing red spinning lights and hearing a siren, pulling me over because I'm on the sidewalk. I don't think any cop, cops don't even bother with anything less than murder these days, I don't think. Robbed a gas station? Okay, we'll be there in about an hour and a half. So some guy riding a scooter on a sidewalk, I don't even worry about it, man. You do what's logical. You do, number one, what's the safest for you.
It actually seemed like the streets were safer, faster, and I don't know. I mean, easier to get around because there's so many people walking on the sidewalk. So I was jumping back and forth, but also those streets were so narrow that I don't think if I was in the street, the car wouldn't be able to get around me. So I was mostly jumping on the sidewalk to get out of the way of the car, and then I would jump back in the street.
Yeah.
And then cars coming, jump back onto the sidewalk, and then go back on the street. The sidewalk was slowing me down. There's too many people walking.
And that's where they say, studies that I've read, kick scooters actually come into play. They can be faster than bicycles when you're weaving in and out of people. A kick scooter can even be faster than an electric scooter, because your foot is constantly on the ground. It's almost like you're walking. You're acting kind of like a pedestrian when you're weaving in and out, because your foot is coming in constant contact with the ground. You're not like an electric scooter is. You're making the kind of maneuvers like you'd make on a motorcycle. Because it's electric, you don't put your foot down on the ground. You're trying to, balance and keep going and keep up enough speed, whereas that's not a concern on a kick scooter. So if you're going through, say, a crowded square with people, the fastest would be the kick scooter, second would be electric scooter, and third would be the bicycle. That's the situation where a bicycle is actually slower. Did you, I really don't imagine you'll be able to answer this question. I don't expect you to. But did you get any kind of impression from people not riding scooters? Like when a scooter went by, they shake their head and go, another one of those idiots. Or did it just seem like...
I felt like I was giving that vibe to people maybe, but it seemed like so... It seems like everybody takes everything. They're like, there's taxis, skateboards. I didn't see any push scooters, but electric scooters, bicycles, electric bicycles. It seems like there's so much that's kind of normal to them. But I was aware of, I was trying not to get in anybody else's way or impede anybody. It seems like that's kind of the normal there.
I wonder why they don't have push kick scooters. I call them kick scooters. Push scooters, same thing. I wonder why they don't have those there. That would seem to make sense.
I don't know. I think electric's the way to go now. I bet you they did, 20 years ago or something, but now the technology's getting good. I mean, the scooter I rode was pretty much perfect speed, perfect weight. I wouldn't have really changed anything about that scooter. I really liked it as like a commuter scooter.
And for our listeners to know, the scooter you were riding is the one I recommend the most to first-time scooter buyers, and that is the Segway 9-Bot Max.
And what was the ratio of cobblestone streets to normal streets? I don't have a lot of fun going over cobblestone.
I don't even know, but I know the sidewalks weren't really torn apart. So the sidewalks were fine. I think it was like cobblestone when you were just in front of like a old building or in a plaza of some sort, but I don't think the sidewalks were just normal sidewalks.
Yeah, sidewalks I found in most countries are still kind of the cement kind of thing, but a lot of the streets are cobblestone, which I don't enjoy walking over, and I do not enjoy driving over.
Yeah, I think the streets were all asphalt. I mean, I think it was just certain, maybe next to old buildings or something, it'd be cobblestone. I didn't really notice, to be honest.
Actually, the video you sent me, it wasn't technically cobblestone. It looked like brick, so maybe it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, that one was real shaky. Well, I sent you 2 videos. I don't know if you saw. One was on La Rambla, where all the people were, and then the shaky one was, up some street, like a cobblestone or something, or brick kind of street. Because I noticed the video was real shaky. I'm telling you, though, I think you should go to Barcelona. You in particular. Like I was telling other people, like I don't know how many people would really enjoy it, because it's like I said, it doesn't really seem like that cool of a spot to visit, but it's a cool spot to live. I mean, the food's cheap, the accommodations were cheap, taxis were cheap, the metro's cheap, everything was cheap, and then it's just like nice weather, and everybody's speaking all different kinds of languages and Spanish, and it's cool. I don't know. It seemed like Paris, France mixed with like New York City, mixed with like old Venice Beach before there was a bunch of homeless people there. Like it was just, I don't know, such a cool place.
I'll make it there one of these days.
It's a big city. It's a big city right on the beach, like with beautiful, beautiful streets and trees, and it was just awesome.
Well, I enjoyed Portugal, and I know Spain is somewhat similar to Portugal. I mean, it's on the Iberian Peninsula.
Yeah, there was people from Portugal visiting, so there must be some sort of difference if people are going to visit there from Portugal. You know what I mean?
Well, I met a lot of people from Spain in Portugal, and they love Portugal, and a lot of them were saying they would move there, and this is where they like to come on vacation, and I guess there's a lot of cross-tourism there.
Wow, has 30 minutes gone by already? There he goes, Scooterhead's Cody, the paramedic. If you remember, paramedic is a step above EMT, but Cody also is qualified as a nurse. He's gone through all that kind of training. So while you're sleeping in your beds, while you're playing with your kids, while you're riding your scooter, he's working 12, 13-hour shifts in the middle of the night, headed towards horrific accidents, any kind of mishaps that you can imagine. So thanks, Cody, for everything you do. Stay tuned for next episode. It's going to be a good one. And until next time, keep the shiny side up and the dirty side down.